Now, for the third part of this self-awareness series, we're going to talk about your tendencies. You need to be aware of your tendencies. I'm Adrian from Adrian's Avenue, and I bring you information that's rich, relatable, and relevant that you can use every day in your leadership skills. Let's jump right in. For starters, let's define tendencies. And when I say tendencies, I'm meaning how you react to your emotions. Those predictable actions to your emotions. You know how when something happens, how you're going to respond to it. And you can almost predict how you're going to respond. Those are your tendencies. Let me give you a clear example of tendencies. For me, when I get a pain in my body or an ache and it's there for a week or two, I always start thinking the worst. And eventually, if it doesn't go away, I'll go see the doctor. And at that point in time, it's usually something minor. I pulled a muscle or done something that is not major, but it worries me. And so I know my tendency is when my body is not well, I'm going to think the worst. I'm going to think things that probably not really happening, but because that's the way my mind is trained to, or I've trained my mind to think, always think the worst when something is going on. We hear stories about people coming up with diseases or getting diseases and not lasting long. And so when something isn't feeling right, to me, I think the worst, and that's my tendency. I need to be aware of my tendency. That's my self-awareness. I know this. And so I have some things to talk to you about helping deal with those tendencies. Now, as leaders, I'm going to give you 4 tips to help you with your tendencies, especially when it comes to your team or just work in general, your peers, your boss. This will help you deal with just your tendencies. Now, the first step is self-awareness. You need to be aware of the way you respond, the way you act, what your tendencies are, but you also need to be aware of how others respond to you, what their tendencies are, especially if it's team members. You know how they respond. With working with them for a while, you'll know that if you say this certain thing to a person, that they will respond in a certain way. So be aware of their tendencies. Also, if you can pick up on your boss and what type of mood your boss is in and what he or hers or his tendencies are, that will help you too. So learn to read yourself as well as reading other people. Now, the second tip I'll share with you is self-control. And this is a leadership skill. When you become a leader, there are certain things you give up. And flying off the handle at others, flying off the handle at your team members, that's what you give up. You can't do that as a leader. You have to remain in control, have self-control, and be an example for your team. If someone is getting out of hand, you can deal with that on a different level, maybe at a later time, or if you want to address it in that moment, you can, but you have to calmly address that or dismiss others to address it. But you can't let your team see you sweat in those situations. You have to be in control of the situation and control of yourself when you're dealing with that situation. This is a leadership skill. Your employees may do things that shock you sometimes, but you as a leader remain calm and deal with the situation. A third tip that I can give you, especially when it comes to social skills, is social awareness. You should be socially aware of especially your team members. Pay attention to how they are feeling, how they're doing on a daily basis, if their emotions are changing, if they're doing something differently, how they look, how they're responding to you. Just be empathetic to their situations if they want to come and talk to you about some things. But being socially aware is very critical. Now, before I get to my last tips, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and that like button so that you can remain up to date on all the information as it becomes available to you. Just remember, social awareness is not necessarily about you, but it's about the people around you. So pay attention to them. The fourth tip is relationship management. Now, this is a mastery when it comes to leadership. What we're talking about are inspiring others to do the best job that they possibly can on the team, resolving conflict if there's any conflict on the team, and then pulling the team together so that they can work together as a team. But this is all in managing the relationships on your team, individual relationships on your team. You know who needs a little more help than others do. and the relationships between the members of your team. That's also an aspect of relationship management. So this is one that is a leadership skill, a leadership mastery skill, because if you can master this, it'll help you just endlessly. Well, that's it. But we have just touched the tip of self-awareness. Hopefully with the emotions, with your triggers, and with your tendencies, you can get this information and take it to benefit you in the present and in the future with your team. Self-awareness is about you, but not only about you. Self-awareness also is about the other people around you. If you are aware how you respond, how you react to things, it will help. And plus, you can look at others and see how they respond and how they react, and you can derive some things about them. So it will help in your relationships throughout the team members, throughout your peers, even with your boss. Now, the links to the first and second video are in the descriptions below. So I've made those available for you to go ahead and watch if you missed those.